Hello, welcome to Moonsong Designs. Thank you for joining me today. Today's project is a box that I designed because I wanted to put scented tea lights in it. Obviously they're not really going to, well, you can get some tea lights that will fit in a box this big, but I have changed the size of the box and it just shows how easy it is to upscale. I had a doofus moment and I've managed to make the top the bottom and the bottom the top, which hopefully I'll get right in a minute. But what I wanted with this was to have an aperture or something in the top so that when it does have scented product in, the fragrance will come out of the box without people having to open the box, and it makes a really nice gift box. I've used the Floral Phrases stamp set and Thinlits. I just think it's a really beautiful set, and the stamp I've used it right around the edges, and it gives a sort of for me it's like a New York Art Deco kind of thing with the papyrus. And this is the stamp set. This you'll see on Pinterest. If you go on there, you'll see loads of inspiration. People have used this stamp particularly to do a lot of cards and a lot of boxes. And then the Thinlits, you get 3 in a set. This is the one we're going to be using, so I'll take that off there and I'll put it on my big shot, which is on the floor already. You get this border, which would be nice just for anything. It doesn't have to be used with this at all. And then you get the larger Thinlit, which I haven't actually used yet. I did have a bit of a play to see how they worked out and how they looked when they were cut. This is one of the new colours, which is Dapper Denim, and we're going to be using another of the new ones, and this one is called Sweet Sugar Plum, and it is very, very pretty, and it's this. So let's get that out of the way and bring in my cutting tool, because what you need to do, these are 21 centimetres by 14.5, and you get 2 from one piece of A4 cardstock. The first one you need to score at 4 centimetres all the way around. And this will be your top base. Top. See, this is where I get myself very confused. This one you need to score at 4 and 1 millimetre, so 41 millimetres you need to score this at. And that will give you enough clearance to put the lid on the box. Whoops, hang on, 41. And the next one. And finally this one. So put that away. And as you can see, if you compare them, this is the original one at 4. So this, because you've done an extra, you've scored it at 4 plus the 1 millimetre, 41 millimetres. The box itself is going to be ever so slightly smaller than the top, so you'll be able to put one on top of the other, or fit one inside the other. So I'm going to make up the base of the box, and then I'm less likely to get confused about which is the top and which is the bottom. And always notch out. There's no set amount that you have to notch out, and just as long as you take some off. And I'm just cutting these a bit shorter as well, because I think it makes for a neater box, especially if you're very tight, and there's a possibility that if it's a very narrow box that they will overlap and they'll give you a bit too much bulk. I don't think this is really the case with this, but I still like to do it. Okay, last one. Would of course have helped if I'd found this. I've walked around the house with the large scissors and I can't remember where I put them. So we're going to fold and burnish. And when you fold and burnish the lid, just take extra care because you've taken quite a lot of the card away. It does weaken it ever so slightly, so you just need to be a little bit careful that you don't bend it. Right, there's a cat come to see what I'm up to. So when you're building your box, just make sure you line up very carefully the edges, and because you want nice crisp edges on your box. And then just give it a bit of rub on the inside, and there you've got the base of your box. So I haven't bought the Sweet Sugar Plum ink, so I'm using, with this one I used the Dapper Denim ink, which I did buy, but for this one I'm using Versamark. And I'd put it back on my shelf, so excuse me while I just go and get it. Now with Versamark, what I tend to do is take the ink to the stamp, rather, I call it ink, rather than the other way around. I don't know what everybody else does, but I just find it is easier to do that than taking the stamp, especially when the stamp is bigger than the pad. I find it so much easier to do it like this. So I'm trying not to get my head in. Just stamp it. I think it looks pretty, because it does look, when you use Versamark, it does actually look like it's self-stamped, as you know, self-colour ink. I think I'm going to have to get the ink for this because I think it's such a pretty colour. It's got a nice depth to it. There you go. I even seem to have got them in the middle, which is pleasant. Right, now you need the Big Shot. So, just standing up for a second. When I'm using the framelits, because they're very thin, and I'm using the magnetic platform, there is a new precision plate. I haven't got that. I don't know whether I will or not. I tend to be a bit late coming to every party, so I always put a piece of card underneath which acts as a shim, and you are able to get, for something like this which has a lot of detail, and you do need that extra pressure just to make sure you get every little bit. I'd recommend getting it straight. I think that's about right. So underneath I've got that extra piece of card, I've got the first of my cutting plates, I've got my card stock and my Thinlit, and then I've got the other cutting plate on the top. And then I'm going to pop them into the Big Shot. Make sure it's engaged properly, and I'm just going to run it through. And I like to do it with something as detailed as this. I do like to do it a couple of times. Probably don't need to, but I just to be on the safe side. It's also very dusty Big Shot because it's just been stuck in a cupboard and not really used, which is something I'm going to have to put right, especially for something like this, because I really like this Thinlit a great deal. Okay, so you should have looks like they've probably all come out. Oh no, not quite. So to get them off, you may find actually that just tipping it up and giving it a good shake gets them off. So you can just, this isn't so fiddly that it's that difficult to get the last little pieces out. So just scissors or a pin or something that's just small enough to go through those holes. And there you go. Let's just get the bits out of the way. And there you have a very pretty cut design. And again, just cutting up those squares, notching out. I haven't put a sentiment on the box because I think it's pretty enough to stand on its own. I just think it's a really delightful, and it's funny because I'm not really a floral person, it's not my style at all, but I think this is just a really lovely set. I think it's a really lovely, this stamp I think I'm going to be using a lot because I just think it's just so pretty. It's quite understated, but it's pretty and it's elegant, I think. So I think that's going to come out for cards and boxes and all sorts. If you keep watching you may get very bored with it. And the framelits, again, they're not really normally my cup of tea, but I think for something like this where you want that little bit of decoration and you want it to be pretty, because it is pretty, and the florals are usually a bit pretty for me. I know I've said it before, I tend to go for more sort of ethnic designs. Let's carefully score that, burnish that. So I go for the more ethnic designs. I don't tend to go for really florally pretty things, but this I've completely fallen in love with. So to build the box, again, we're going to use a bit of fuse. So I think boxes are actually quite simple once you've mastered the art, and I find it harder to actually make a box that is for something specific because I seem to get the measurements wrong. Fuse is fighting back today. Let's just make sure I haven't got any on the outside of the box, and again I'm just going to make sure the edges are matched up. Because that's where you want it to be nice and neat. Right, cross your fingers that I've actually got the top and the bottom correct. Oh, you have. How remarkable. So we have a very pretty pink box, and we have a Dapper Denim doofus box. But I think this is a really nice size box, and I think that would hold tea lights very happily. In fact, have I got any? These aren't tea lights. I wonder whether these would fit. These are some votives that I've made. Thinking on my feet here, I wonder whether they would fit. Oh yeah. Oh, well, would you look at that. So I have now made a box for my votive candles. And there you have it. 2 boxes, similar but different. This one I think would hold a nice little book or box of chocolates. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the project. See you soon. Bye bye.